Hi, I'm Randy Nesse from the Arizona State University Center for Evolution Medicine. Our guest today is Cynthia Beall from Case Western Reserve University. She's an anthropologist, but mostly she studies genes, and I'd like to begin by asking her, did you ever think you were going to be studying genes when you went to graduate school?
I hoped.
Did you?
Oh, yes. Because in order to study natural selection, you need to have heritable traits. To have heritable traits, you need genes.
And you have to have something that changes the frequency of those genes. What did you choose?
Well, I chose high altitude hypoxia as my stress of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it's a good stress, for your purposes at least.
For my purposes, it's high altitude hypoxia is a very good stress. And the reason is that it doesn't go away, and that everyone at a given altitude has the same stress. For example, if you were to study cold stress, well, it varies with season. Right. It could vary with what your occupation is. So high altitude hypoxia is nice.
So it's a steady selection force all through the lifespan.
Yep.
People living at how high do you have to get before things start to change?
That's a good question. Sort of the official cutoff between low altitude and high altitude is about 7,500 feet.
So that's about Denver, is that something?
No, it's more like Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
Denver's at 5,000 feet.
It's 5,000 feet.
So Denver technically and is often used as a relatively low altitude control.
Uh-huh. So I thought it was really high. So how high do the mountains get that people climb around the United States?
In the U.S., well, for example, Pikes Peak is at 4,400 meters. That's about 14,000 feet. And there are a number of what they call 14ers in Colorado.
But you work elsewhere, mainly in Asia.
In Asia and in the Andes and in East Africa.
Okay. How high do the peaks go there?
Well, the peaks go in Asia, they go as high as the top of Mount Everest. However...
Which is 22...
28,000.
28,000, okay.
I don't work on Everest. There are no native populations there.
So how high can humans live?
The highest, there's a little bit of a debate about that, but there are indigenous Tibetan nomads living at 18,000 feet.
Wow.
And they may go throughout the year, they may move with their herds between 17 and 18,000.
So it seems to me that your main question, Cynthia, has been how humans adapt in different ways to altitude.
Yes, it has been.
What are some of the different ways?
Well, you can adapt very quickly and reversibly. For example, by increasing your breathing when you get out of the car, when you go to, or off the plane when you go to altitude. Or you can adapt developmentally. Andean Highlanders, for example, who...
So what does it mean developmentally?
It means when you grow up under the stress of a particular environmental stress. And, for example, Andean Highlanders are known for having very large chests.
Chests.
Barrel chests, full of big lungs. And it turns out that that is partly due to growing up.
So if you grow up in a place like that, and is it because you breathe a lot or because some mechanism makes your lungs and chest grow more?
Well, we think it's because there's some mechanism that improves growth.
Really?
And the reason is that beagle dogs do the same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
How interesting. So that's immediate adaptation and slower developmental adaptation as a child grows up, but there's one more kind at least.
Yep, genetic. And that is a genetic adaptation occurs as a result of natural selection over many, many generations.
So how many generations does it take for humans to change genetically in ways that makes them better able to cope with high altitude?
Well, that's a good question, and it depends on our knowledge of how long people have been at altitude. And we know that both in the Andes and in Tibet, for example, people have been at altitude probably for 13,000 years or so. And so 13,000 years is maybe 400, 500 generations, depending on how long they are.
I'm guessing that's plenty of time.
And it's plenty of time.